Hello there. Well, you may well ask, why am I hanging up an old roller blind on the side of my workshop on a coat hanger? Well, hopefully all will become clear in the next few minutes. See you then. Well, hello there and welcome to day 10 of my entry to the Great Guitar Build-Off 2020, the unofficial challenge. Now then, in this episode I'm going to be spraying this guitar body with some epoxy 2-part lacquer, which I've never used before, so that's going to be quite interesting. And while that's curing, I'm hoping to start wiring up all the electrics. I can't do them all because I need to feed some wires between these two cavities, but I can do a lot of the wiring and get everything ready. So that's my plan for today. Let's get going. Okay, I'm using this extra tough Pro varnish stroke lacquer, which is a 2-part epoxy. It's 10 parts of the base there and 1 part hardener. So I've marked out enough for 150 ml, which I'm hoping will do the guitar, and also a test piece. Apparently I can keep this for up to 2 hours before it goes off. So I'm going to spray a test piece. Hopefully that'll dry off and I can just have a look at it before I actually do the main spray. So here we go. I just need to interrupt this video very quickly to explain that I am a novice sprayer, and that's going to become very clear in the next few minutes. And there are some fundamental things that you need to do before you spray, and well, I didn't do them. So the problems that I had were nothing to do with the sprays that I was using. It was just purely down to this twit here not doing the right thing. Anyway, you'll see what I mean in a minute. Now, everything I've heard about this is you've got to mix it really well, but also try and avoid getting bubbles in it. So this is my fair weather spray booth. It's an old roller blind hung on this coat hanger with this little wooden contraption at the top. There's another coat hanger there which the spray gun just hooks onto, and this piece of wood comes round, and I've got a hook if I need to hang the piece of work on it. It works okay, obviously depends on the weather. Okay, I've just sprayed a test piece and I'm going to give it about 15 minutes just to see what happens. While that's drying in the drying cupboard, which is what you can hear in the background, I'm just going to cut out a bung to go into this pickup slot there so that I don't get lacquer around the edge. After what looked to be a promising test spray, the actual spray of the guitar was an absolute disaster, because that stuff has got lumps in it that just shot out all over the guitar. So I've actually wiped it all off. I think I'm going to go back to my Mohawk Hydro Gold lacquer that I've used many times before without any trouble, to be honest with you. It gives a nice finish, and yeah, That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to sand this down a little bit just to get rid of any residual stuff that's on there, and then have another go. Okay, so I've given the body a first coat of spray, and I also sprayed the neck. So while that's curing, I'm going to go and have some lunch. See you in a bit. I bet you've never seen this done before. Hello there. Well, as Storm Alex rages outside and the guitar body and neck is sitting in the drying cupboard curing, I thought I'd get on with the wiring today. Now I'm going to use this wiring diagram that I've produced over many months, I should say, because it was a bit of a fiddle with this 4-way 3-pole rotary switch. Because on this guitar I haven't got a lot of room. I'm using the rotary switch to select between the pickups, and I've got 3 pickups. So I've got the neck, the bridge and the piezo, and 4 configurations, which is neck and bridge together, and piezo. So it took a little while to work out what the wiring configuration is. So what I'm going to do, I'll walk you through this wiring diagram as I actually do the soldering. So the first thing to do is to get all the connections on that rotary switch wired up. I've got myself a pack of coloured wires this time, and I've colour coded this diagram because I got very confused last time I tried to do this. So hopefully having colour coded diagram and coloured wires will solve the problem. So the input from the neck pickup, the bridge pickup and the piezo pickup via the amplifier come into the 3 terminals on the rotary switch. These are labelled A, B and C. And in order to get the configuration for the right outputs, I need to connect these pins together. Appreciate watching somebody solder is not the most interesting thing, but I'll just show you how I wire up this rotary switch. So basically I solder that to number 3, that to number 4, and then I've left a bit of this insulation on because I've got to wrap it round and then connect it to number 6 and 7. I can see them. Where are they? 6 and 7. There we are. So that enables me just to, I'll put a dab there, put that in there, and a bit of solder on that. Okay, so that's quite a neat little joint then. Now the output from the rotary switch goes to the volume control, and that output then is taken to this double pole double throw switch. The purpose of the double pole double throw switch is to route the pickups from the neck and the bridge either directly to the stereo jack socket via the volume pot. In other words, you can use the guitar without there being a battery, it doesn't go anywhere near the preamp. And it also allows me to route them through the preamp stage if I want to give that extra boost. Unfortunately the piezo pickup has to be amplified, and so that always goes through at least one stage of the amplifier. But if the double pole, double throw switch is down, that enables the piezo to be also amplified by the second stage of the amplifier as well, which gives it a boost. So what I'm going to work on now is this area, the volume control and the double pole switch. Okay, so now we've got the signal chain coming from the rotary switch, going through the volume control into the double pole switch. Those two are connected, so if the switch is in a certain position upwards in actual fact, then the signal is routed straight through to the jack. Okay, so what I'm doing now is wiring in the main earthing wire. This will go back to the preamp board as well. That's okay. The battery will be connected to this connector, which is sort of the stereo connector, and then there will form a circuit between those two when the jack plug's plugged in. So this has got to go through back into the body of the guitar. Right, with those wires cut and soldered, I think it's time for lunch. While I'm waiting for the guitar to dry, I'm now going to tackle the plates for the control cavities. And I'm going to use this aluminium sheeting. I'm using the routing template to mark out the size of the template. I'm going to try and avoid cutting as much as I can, so if I can position it right on the edge, just use this little scribe to go round on the inside. Oh, that's that one. And while we're at it, might as well do this one. I'm using aluminium because it's quite thin and I don't want the plates to be too thick, and B, it obviously is conductive, so it should shield the control cavities for me. My little bandsaw should be able to handle aluminium. The lacquer has closed up the gap a little bit for this plate, so I'm just going to very carefully clean that out a bit. Right, well, I've got the plate the right size now, but the other issue is that the recess for the plate isn't deep enough. This comes back from that issue where I sanded the back down and took away some of the depth. I should have gone deeper. So I'm going to have to try and deepen that. I've decided to try and scrape it out with this half a knife blade here. And it seems to be working reasonably well. The scraping worked to a point, but I think I'm going to have to take a bit more off with a chisel. Well, next time I'll route it deeper, eh? Now, it's taken me about an hour, but I've got that plate seated and I'm pretty pleased with that. There's just a couple of little marks there, but it's pretty good. So now I'm going to move on to the big one in the middle. Okay, I'm reasonably pleased with the way those are fitting in. Once again, that recess should have been a little bit deeper, so I'm going to have to take a bit out, but otherwise I'm pretty pleased with the way that's looking. I'm going to attach the plates with a couple of screws, and when I did the routing I allowed a little sort of extra bit of wood there to allow me to do that, so I'm just going to go in the middle of that. Centre's about there. I'm using a 2mm drill bit for this. I thought I'd have another look at this conductive paint that I had some difficulty with. Now my problem with it is that if you rub your finger on it, you get the black graphite come off on your fingers. And look, if you've got a guitar where you're sealing up the back plates and you're not going to intend to go in there, I can't see there's a problem with that. But with my guitars, you've got a preamp with a battery that needs to be changed. So I don't want people going into the back of the guitar to change the battery and then ended up with soot all over their fingers. So first of all, I've done a bit of an experiment. So let me just have a look, see how effective this paint is first of all. So that's a connection. So if I now put this on the paint, yeah, that's a pretty good connection. Now, so what I've done is I've tried two things. One, I tried mixing it with some varnish, some water-based varnish, and that I think that probably destroys the connectivity to a certain extent. There's certainly, it's very little there, so it doesn't really work. But what I've done on this side is I've actually painted some of the varnish over the top. So if I rub it now, I'm not getting any stuff come off on my fingers. But the question is, will it still be conductive? Now, what I've got to do, I suppose, is just scratch through the surface here, which I'll do. And let's try it. See if I can get some. I'm not going to be able to get a connection here, but it's a bit, yes, there's some there, look, on the side, which I've not. So the answer is yes, I believe that it will be conductive if I paint over the top of it. Let's try that again. Okay, so my plan is I'm going to go over it again with another coat of conductive paint. Now the reason I'm doing that is that once I put the paint on, the copper tape didn't stick. It's just that this thing flakes too much. It just comes off. So I'm going to give it another coat of this paint because I've taken some of it off just to make sure it is a good conductor there. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to paint some clear varnish on the top of it. And my hope is that that is going to achieve A, good shielding, and B, avoid getting black on people's hands when you open this up. The single coil pickup is particularly vulnerable to mains hum. So, okay. That's that done. Back in the drying cupboard. Right, I've just put a piece of wood in there, just glued it to the side just to strengthen the hole where I've got a drill for the screw to attach this. While that's drying, I'm going to paint the inside of this with some of this varnish. It's pretty old water-based varnish, but it in my test it seemed to work in so much as it's sealed in the black paint. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to leave some of the black shielding paint open so that I can get a connection to it. But the main sort of cavity where people would have to get in to change the battery, I'm going to paint. Okay, so the body's gone back in the drying cupboard, and I'm going to go and have a cup of tea. Now I'm going to start the process of rubbing this down with some wet and dry, going up to 2500 grit. Now the first problem I've got is just here, which is a run. So first off, I'm going to use some 320, just a strip, and I'm just going to pull it across the top of there, see if I can just take it down a bit. It's going to take a while, so I'm just going to gently pull that across. Okay, I've got that down pretty close to the rest of the finish. It's just slightly raised up. I'm going to now start doing the whole of the body now. I don't want to take this down to the wood if I can help it. I'm hoping I haven't gone that too far, but we'll soon find out. Okay, so I've blocked up the back and some of the holes at the front with some masking tape just to keep some of the water off that I'm going to be using with this wet and dry. I'm actually going to start off with some 800 grit paper and just give it a light rub down, see if I can get rid of some of this orange peel that's on there. Let's see what we can do. I've got some fresh water and this is 1200 grit. Some fresh paper. Go up to 2500 grit. To be honest with you, I'm pretty glad that I decided to go for the glossy finish rather than the sort of more matte oil finish. Look, this isn't going to be an absolute high gloss that you're going to get from Gibson or Fender, but from my point of view, it's a pretty good gloss, and I'm certainly happy with that. So well, that's the body done. I've just got to do the neck now. Now for the neck, I'm going to try a slightly different approach, because I sort of rather like the grain on the side here, on the back. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to polish it up with some of this Buffer's polish, and just see what it looks like, because I think it sort of adds to it. I mean, on the front there, I'm going to have to polish that one up, but this here is quite beautiful. So I'm going to see what happens when I polish it. Let's go on. Okay, today's going to be an exciting day. I've got the body and the neck varnished, so now I'm going to do the side dots, get the nuts sorted out, get the electronics installed, pickups, bridge. Hey, may even get some strings on it. Better get going. I'm going to mark the side dots first, using this guitar I've built already as a reference, just to double check. I'm just going to put a little mark where I need to put the dots. I've got 2 dots there, and then we've got 15. Yep, they're in the right place. Okay, so now I'm going to get them all centered and marked with an awl. I'm doing the top to bottom by eye. Let's just hope my eye's good. I'm using a 2mm drill, which is the size of the dot material, and I'm just going to push the dots in. I'm not going to stick them in because they do go in pretty tight. Right, the dots are done. I'm just going to put this to one side now while I work on the pickups and the body and the electrics. Okay, I'm going to fit the piezo pickup. That's going to sit under the bridge. Now that's the hole where the wire is going to go down. So it has to sit under the bridge, going slightly at an angle forward to there. Now what I'm going to do is just going to mark that line because I'm going to have to route out a small channel to put this in. Do a mark there. Just going to join that up with the hole up there. Okay, so I need to get the Dremel out to route a channel. Put some marker skin tape round the two wires. My hope is I'm going to be able to pull those through and get that through the other side. And there it comes. I have it. Okay. So now with a bit of luck that should slot into there. And that should fit into that slot. Now I might have to do some bit of trimming just to make sure that it does fit into there. Very carefully without cutting the wire. Okay, that's seated quite nicely all the way along there. It's just a little bit above the body. So the front of the bridge is slightly higher, and that's because it's resting on that piezo pickup, and that's important because we want the vibrations from the strings to transfer into that pickup. So these two screws will be put in but not too tight. Okay, so now I'm coming to fit the humbucker, and I'll be honest with you, I'm making my life difficult because I don't really want to put this big surround on. I'd rather it just come up through the body, which is why I've done the holes in the way I've done it. I've had to just widen this hole out a little bit because it wasn't quite big enough, and there's some little glitches there which I just need to tidy up a bit, but that should come out through there, and then that will match the single pickup, which is going to pop out that end there. So I just need to do a little bit of very fine filing here just to tidy up some of these edges, and I'm just using some diamond files I've got. I think I got from Axminster a while back. Because I'm changing the way of fitting these, I need to cut the spring that's supplied down to half size, which I've done. Now then, should be able to get that in place with a bit of a polish. Anyway, right, okay, now the neck pickup. With the neck pickup I really don't understand quite how it's supposed to be secured, and they provide these screws which just slide through that hole. So what I do is I super glue a nut over the hole there, which is easier said than done, and then I put a bolt through. I've used a soldering iron to melt these nuts into the plastic of this pickup so that it'll hold them steady while I get the screws done up. Okay, eventually I have this single coil pickup in place. Right, now I can get on with the electronics. After a good bit of fiddling around, I've managed to get the controls all screwed in place. I'd forgotten to drill a hole from this cavity to that cavity, so I've just done that, which is not ideal with everything is in place, but there's a hole there. So now I've got to feed all the wires through and see if we can get the pickups all wired up. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put a dab of glue in here and put this circuit board in place. Probably not very professional, but hey, I just need to hold that piece of wood in place just there. Circuit board is screwed onto it, so it can be taken off. Right, so what I've done, I've wired up the battery earth. So the battery earth now goes round to the jack socket. So well, good morning. It's the day after the soldering day, and unfortunately my camera card filled up. I hadn't cleared it out, so I didn't get all of the soldering, which is probably a good job because that would have bored you sick, I imagine. Anyway, to summarise, I managed to fit all the pickups and the bridge, and despite the fact the wiring diagram looks fairly simple when it's all drawn out, it got very complicated, and it was looking a bit like spaghetti by the end of the day yesterday. However, all the pickups are working when I tap them, so that's a good sign. So today I'm going to move on to fitting the nut on the neck and installing the machine heads, and see if we can put some strings on this thing. I think it's time to put the thing together. Press it into there, and you just need to give it a little tap to knock that into alignment. That goes into there. There we go. Right, now to the nut. I actually got this nut to fit in there really tightly, so I'm not even sure I'm going to need to glue that. Anyway, let's just mark the top of the strings, see how far off we are. Now I've fitted a couple of strings, bottom E, top E, and as I suspected, my headstock slope was not enough, so I'm going to have to put some string restraints just about there on the E and the A and the E and the B. Okay, it's time to get some strings on this guitar. Okay then, I've got the strings on and I've been tuning it, and it sounds good. I'm going to do a demo of it in the next video, but this has been a bit of a long video. Thank you very much if you're still watching it. Don't forget, this is all for a charity, and so head along to the Great Guitar Build Off 2020 website for more details all about that. This guitar will be auctioned at the end of the competition. Well, it's been a bit of an adventure. I've still got the back plates to sort out. I've got problems with the paint on that one, but I shall tackle that next time. I've also got to do a cover for the truss rod there. But otherwise, I'm pretty pleased with the way it sounds and the way it looks. I'll leave you with a few bits of me tinkling around, but otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.